What's happening, everybody? It's your man, Dame DNYDC, host of the Two Mics Up podcast. Thank you for joining us this evening. Sorry we was running a little late, uh, trying to get things organized. We got a lot of moving pieces going on, but I thank you for taking time out again to join us tonight. Um, Lisa and I was talking, off air, a little nervous energy, uh, excitement about tonight's live discussion. I really think it's important that we continue this conversation only because, you know, eh, for me sitting here using this platform, um, it's really important that we unite as one community. And thanks to Joe and his education in his episode, really helped enlighten me and open my eyes. And I'm really glad that, he's here joining us again tonight along with our guest, actor Travis Raeburn, excuse me, good brother Saeed Riddick Entertainment, and the queen of the show, Lisa Middleton. I'm just blessed that we can get here to this point again and continue this discussion. And I just want to say before passing it over to Lisa, I want everybody to feel free to um, give their input and share their comments, but please do so respectfully. I really want to be able to turn this conversation over to our listeners, um, and to our guests. So, with that being said, I'm going to step away and going to allow Lisa just to jump in and share her thoughts before we get started this evening.
Hey everyone, good evening, good evening. I'll give some people some time to get on in here so we can get this going. I am super ready for this. You know what I always say, we are better together. So the only way that we are going to reach our goals as people is to get rid of the things that divide us. So this healing series is very near and dear to my heart because I think that we as black people need to start healing, and we need to let go of the small things that divide us because we got enough going on. We got enough people after us, oppressing us, marginalizing us, and trying to keep us down. So the only way that we're going to get to where we need to be as a people is united. Period.
Well said.
We having so many troubles reaching our goals because small things divide us. And the healing series is near and dear to my heart. So I'm ready. Let's go.
Let's get it.
All right. Well said. So, with that, Lisa, I'm just going to piggyback and, while we're still letting people, join us, the goal of this conversation is to address the, that toxic masculinity, that's really being thrown or being shaded upon our brothers and sisters of the LGBTQ community. And, you know, I'm hoping that with Joe and Tramel's help, they can continue to educate us and, just really educate all of us and work to bringing us all together. So, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and ask everyone to take a moment to introduce themselves to our listeners. And we'll start with Joe and Tramel.
Hey everybody, y'all remember me from the podcast. I'm Joseph, and I was the one that enlightened y'all the first time. And I'm glad of how that went over because I wanted to give you most people when they hear gay men talk, they expect finger popping and a whole cliche. And I didn't want to give you that. I can be that, but that's not who I am as a person. And me and my husband, as you see, we have a show on YouTube called the McRae Kingz. That's our channel, and we do a show every morning at 11:30 a.m. Coffee with the Kings. And our reception has been rather well. Some of our viewers are actually in the comments supporting us now. Um, we love what we do. We did it because how it got started was Tramel used to go with me to dialysis because he wanted to know what was actually going on with me when I went to dialysis. And he was just sitting in the car having his coffee. And he started just going live, saying coffee with the king. And then he started doing it every, because I would go Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So he would do it every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then he asked me that I want to do it with him on my off days or wait till we got home and do it. And I said, sure. So that's how the McRae Kingz was born. And it has been a long struggle, a hard struggle, because in the comments, people have said some horrible things just because we were Black gay men that we didn't ask for. It had nothing to do with what we was talking about, but just out of hate for us.
Mhm.
So we've done that, and we go past it. We try to ignore. See, I don't have it in me to ignore those type of comments. Tramel has it in him to see it and to say, Joe, don't respond to it. Me, I'm gonna go in full in. Face. Your
Sometimes.
Well, Tramel, we didn't get a pleasure to have you on in the first conversation, but please, introduce yourself. Say hi to our listeners, man. Want to hear a few words from you before we jump in.
Hey, everybody. I am Trebell. My pronouns are him, his, and his majesty.
Uh-oh.
I like to be referred to as his majesty.
Okay.
To be referred to as his majesty. However, I do understand, some people just may not be comfortable with that. But I am the other half of the McRae Kingz.
Well,
yes, Joseph was absolutely right. Yes, it did start off in the car. I would have to sit for 4 hours and wait for my husband to come out of dialysis. And as I was doing that, I, just started this rapport. And we've been doing it ever since 2018. Yeah. But yeah, he's right. He, for the most part, has almost gone into the point where he has gone and found something like he ain't supposed to be finding to go and get somebody. My don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. My bark is just as bad as my bite too. So, to the audience, feel free to ask questions, but you will want to be respectful. You want to do that.
Well, trust me.
Responsible for 2 mics up.
No, yeah, no. This is a place of where what drove this honestly was the openness of Joe and a lot of our listeners. Good evening, Vina. A lot of our listeners really asked for this,
Mhm.
and a lot of the remarks, and I'll share with you, were pretty much they feel comfortable in this setting, sitting here with 2 mics up and asking the questions that they really wanted to ask. Lisa and I got bombarded with a lot of questions that we couldn't ask. So we decided we wanted to come back with you both and these brothers here and have this conversation.
Okay.
And so feel free. There's no disrespect here. This is just an open, frank conversation. And as I'm saying that, I want to go ahead and move on and let this young brother, this young king who was also on, actually, he was on the episode before you gentlemen. He brought up this topic, ironically, in our conversation. And I wanted to have a young king and a young brother that's actually out here experiencing this and is aware of what's going on. So, Travis, could you go ahead and introduce yourself real quick to our listeners?
Thank you so much. It's great to meet you, Tramel and Joseph and Saeed. Thank you so much for having me, 2 mics. Again, my name is Travis Raeburn. I'm an actor. I'm based in New York City, and I'm just so grateful to be here and to have this conversation. I remember during the interview I had with y'all, we had kind of like spoke about it just a little bit, you understand? And so to now bring it to fruition and to be able to really talk about it, I'm really excited, and I've been excited for the past 2 weeks to dive in and to just talk and to build a relationship and just to keep it going. So thank you again for having me.
I appreciate it, my brother. And last but definitely not least, here's another brother that I have the pleasure of knowing, and I sit down and I kick it with and really pick his brain, full of knowledge. And I'm glad that he joined us here tonight. Saeed Riddick. Saeed, you want to take a few minutes and just introduce yourself to everybody?
Hello. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Thank you for having me. Two mics up. Saeed Riddick, as Damon said, I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. Um, I'm a serial entrepreneur. Do a lot of things. I have Riddick Entertainment. Uh, I'm coming with a nonprofit, Culture, Strength, and Power, because I think that's important. Mm. I had a conversation with Lisa and Dame after the interview with Joe. And as I was talking to Lisa, she asked me a question about, I think it was name calling. And I said, nah, Lisa, I never really did that. That never really was my style. Of course, I was born in Brooklyn, Brownsville. Of course, I heard it, but that wasn't me. And she was like, real? So I said, nah, I don't think I really never called nobody the F word. So that's when she said, so I really would think you need to have a conversation. That just never been my style, or never was in that situation where I had to do that. Um, and that's how this came about. But thanks for having me.
Oh, most deaf, most deaf. So we're gonna go ahead and we're just gonna transition, into the conversation. Before we get started, I want to allow anybody listening or anything that before we jump into our first question, anybody have any questions? If you want to post it in the comments, feel free. If you want to send it to me directly in the chat, if you're not comfortable asking, I'll be more than happy to ask the question for you. But if not, I'm going to turn it over to Lisa, and we're going to start this journey.
All right, well, let's get in. Well, my first question is for Tremel. Tremel, I just want to ask you, can you share with us your experience as it relates to you coming out as a gay Black man?
Oh wow. Ooh, nobody's asked me a long time. Oh, yes, I can share that with you. But first of all, y'all, the reason why I changed the picture in the background is because my husband, I don't know what it is about this picture back here. He loves this picture. He said,
If you knew me and Tramel, that picture of him is his whole personality. And you know good and well that picture of me is my entire personality.
with the wine glass.
Because without us saying a word, you can kind of get an idea of who we are.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Like, let me be clear. And him is like,
Don't even try.
Don't do it. Yes, my experience with coming out was not a very nice one. Wasn't very nice. I have to say that. Now, for my mom, it was kind of mediocre. My mom was like, you're my son, you're my child. I don't care. Just be careful. And what you have to understand is the day and age that I came up in, the HIV and AIDS, there was no such thing as HIV. There was just AIDS. The AIDS epidemic had just started running rampant. I'm an 80s child. So, I was, a young man in the 80s. And so, and my dad, I come from a long line of toxic masculinity. My dad was a police officer. My uncles were police officers. I grew up with nothing but boys, period. I have 15 cousins that I grew up with, and they're all boys. And when I they're boys in every sense of the word, I'm talking about the Boy Scouts, the Eagle Scouts. I'm talking about the football and the baseball and all that stuff. I grew up with all that, but I was just this one kid in the house that just did not cater to all of it. I didn't watch baseball or football or basketball. Still don't understand the child.
Wow.
That's the household I came up in. However, my coming out was one of surprise to my father because someone told him about me. And my dad, whom I never lied to, came to me and asked me. He said, Tremel, are you that way? And I said, yes. And when I did that, I ended up in the hospital.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So that was my experience with coming out. It was not a pretty one. It really was, So, and from that point on, I was not allowed to be around guys. I was not allowed to have guys at my house. I wasn't allowed to have guys in my room. I was not allowed to have guys call my house whatsoever. And when they did, my father would light them up, you know.
Wow.
So that was my experience. My first boyfriend he was 43 years old. I was only 17. My father didn't even know.
Wow.
Can I ask you how old were you when this happened?
Oh, I was every bit of 20.
Okay.
Wow.
So my question is, when you said you wasn't allowed to have gentlemen in a room or called and stuff like that, if you wasn't that way, if it was a girl, you think he was that is kind of young to be having people over in a room and stuff like that. So do you think it would have been the same, basically?
Well, no, you see, my house was one of freedom. My father
Okay.
stuff
Okay.
at that time. And what
Okay.
you also understand is I don't even understand why my father didn't even, I don't even know why he didn't know. As,
Okay.
Wow.
as I am, I've always been this lit.
Okay. Okay.
Wow.
As lit as I am, I don't understand why my father didn't know. But I
Okay.
really think that, someone calling him and telling him and it coming out of my mouth,
Okay.
he had absolutely no choice but to accept it.
Okay.
Wow. That's a great question, Si, because it makes me think back. I have family members the same way. Um, and I don't know, it was a little different. I don't think it was till I got older. And I tell this story lovingly. I have a cousin that I love to death, love like cook food. And when we were younger, we used to play Batman and Robin. But he always wanted to be Wonder Woman,
Mhm.
and he used to take his long johns and put it over his head. That was you pointing at yourself,
He
Joe.
said, "Yeah, me."
That was
Yeah.
so I looking back on it, I didn't think anything of it. It wasn't until I got older and just the way that my uncle responded to him,
Mhm.
and being from being Puerto Rican, that whole machismo thing, my uncle really gave my cousin hell, when I look back at it. But when you're young, you don't think about it. I just thought, he was always different.
Right.
So I thank you, Tramel, for sharing that story. And it just kind of brought back my childhood in a way, like so vivid,
Right.
just crazy.
Thank you, and thank you, people in the comments, for your kind words as well.
So, with that being said, it almost brings me to before I get to my next question, it brings me to a current topic that is going on right now, um, because people are now with the whole Dwayne and Gabrielle union and their daughter, excuse me, Zaya, um, saying that she feels like a woman, and people are bashing the Wades because they are embracing their child. And the comments that I hear a lot about is that the child is 12 years old, they don't know what they want, and that the Wades are pushing this on the child. But now it brings to my mind, only because of Tramel's story, just that instance of that glimpse that he gave us into his experience, is this is the reason why uh gay men, women, and trans people feel that they cannot come out because of being or keeping it in and trying to harm themselves, or fear of backlash. So I just wanted to put it out because this is a whole dynamic that is happening now all over the internet. I know everyone here has heard it and seen it.
Mhm.
And just listening to Jamel's story at 20, coming out to his father and being hospitalized. So we have to erase that stigma on people who are gay, trans, bisexual, queer, whatever they are, to feel comfortable and in their skin, that they're not going to be harmed or harm themselves, because we have these strong, unhealthy biases against each other because of whatever reason. And that was almost, that's just, it just came to my mind. And it also brings, Joe was on the show and he made a statement that was and Dame and our staff like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me say this.
Joe,
Let me be clear about this. Oh, I'm sorry.
You
Who's still speaking?
guys me. I all of these things. Why would I choose that?
Right.
Travis or Saeed, hearing these statements as a straight black man, do you guys have you heard anything like that so deep and so poignant? Where is it it hits you home?
I could say when I listened to it, that caught me also. Like, why would I want to be something where I'm gonna get abused and ridiculed, or you know, talked about, especially back in those days. So I guess I have to be being myself if I'm willing to go through what I'm going through. But it hit different when I heard it in that content like that.
It
Why would I
did.
set myself up for that?
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
I would,
Because
like
this is who I am.
I would like to ask Travis and Saeed and David a question. When did you sit down and decide when did you actually make a conscious decision? Do I want to be gay or do I want to be straight? When did you? Because that's what makes me more mad. That people think I made a choice. But what I'm saying is, you never sat down and made a choice. Today I'm gonna like girls. I think I'm gonna like girls. I think
it was automatic, right?
It was just an automatic thing.
It was automatic.
I was attracted to women. I like girls. You never had to sit and think about whether you wanted to like a boy or a girl. It was just something that was. And that's what I try to tell people. It was just something that was. It wasn't a decision to make. It was a decision to live in my truth. Because everything against me in this world, that was the decision I made to live in my truth. But to sit and say I made a decision to like boys over girls.
But before they answer that question, let me just say this: I think we as gay men, we have this responsibility to those of you that are out there listening. If you think that you're LGBTQ, if you are LGBTQ, you're young and you don't know what to do, you don't have anybody to talk to, I'm here to tell you that you are one of the bravest people in the world. Number one. Number two is although it may be hard, trust me, it's going to be better living in your own skin. And let me just be clear about how I feel about some parents that are against it. What you have to understand is that parents are scared, afraid. They act out of fear. Most parents act out of fear. I guarantee you, most parents that don't want their children to be gay is because they're afraid of what their child is going to endure as a black gay man or a black gay woman. That is their fear, So we can't just. I don't want people to make this assumption that we as gay black gay men and women we are against our parents or we're going against the grain purposely. We want you to understand that we get it, parents. We get it. You parents that are opposed, we get it.
Now this is where me and Trumel differ because we talk about we discuss, we have conversations like this. Yeah, of course, because of our show. But this is where we differ. I feel parents are just more embarrassed of having to explain to people why their son is gay or why their daughter is a lesbian. Well, and when it comes to me, Lisa, and Omar had a conversation last night too, and it wasn't that way for my sister. He was more embarrassed because her brother was gay than anything. And she felt because my sister was young when I came out. My sister was only 16, 2 years apart. And when I came out, I was 19, she was 16. And for her, it was an embarrassment because she felt that people were going to automatically assume that she was a lesbian because I was gay. Now,
Wow.
if you say the wrong thing about a gay person, period, in front of my sister, she will light you up. She has
Wow.
been around gay men for so long that mouth is just like one of ours. She's that, you know.
And see, my mom is that way. That's how my mom is. My mom is very protective of not only me, but she's protective of Joseph. You say something about this man, you see what happens. She will curse you out. You know, I pull my mother back from people, you know, but
and see, that's the part that parents don't really understand, especially Black parents. And if anything, that's the part I want them to understand.
Yeah, but my mom was fearful. That's why I said
what I said. That was
you know, my mother was very afraid of, you know, what people were going to do to me.
Right.
That was her big
and that's natural for a parent to protect their child.
Yeah.
But you know, parents that do that, but then they make you homeless, or they beat the hell out of you, thinking they're gonna beat the gay out of you, or they send you to church to be embarrassed.
Right.
None of that is gonna change your child. You can't beat out the gay.
Right.
Homeless is just putting your child, setting your child up for failure because some old ass man gonna pick up some 15-year-old boy, and that's your worst nightmare. It ain't no different putting out your 15-year-old daughter.
Right.
Do what they got to do to survive. And that's the part I want. I have met in my lifetime so many Black gay men that have been put out, that have not talked to their parents since they was like 15 or 12, and now they're 50 or they die alone because their parents don't even know they're dead. And that is the saddest thing to me. Just because you couldn't accept the fact that your son or daughter is gay or lesbian. Like, as a parent, that says you love your child with stipulation. As long as they move the way you want them to move and do what you want them to do, it's okay. But the minute you tell them you want them to be an individual and live their lives for themselves.
Answer the question, Joe.
Well, no, you're fine, because I mean, it's going to lead into two things. I see Travis shaking his head, and you know, I know there was a couple of things going on, you know, and I think I'm going to allow Travis and Saeed to kind of respond if they can quickly, because you know your point about, you know, who wakes up, you know, thinking or saying that they want to be gay. You know, I'm going to let Travis answer that real quick, and Saeed, before we get into this great question from Vina. I let it sit there because I think that's a great question and we really need to address it.
Yeah, that question. Yeah, I would love to answer that question.
So before we get into that, we'll jump into the first question. You know, Travis, you know, as Joe said, you know,
when Lisa was speaking, my internet had went out, so I didn't hear her question. But to go off of Joe's question, for me, it was never. I never woke up and thought about it. It was just what it was.
Right.
My experience. Black toxic masculinity has always been prevalent in my life. That's just what it is. I think for any Black person, especially living in America, or Black male, you know what I'm saying. I think biggest fear is what it is to, you know, one day to be a parent, and to, you know, to nurture a child, no matter what they identify as, or no matter what they want to do to nurture that, and to really unconditionally nurture that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's, I guess it's not a fear, it's a goal. Like, that's what I want to. That's what I want to do. Like, that's what I need to do. You know, especially for Black kids, like, that's what they need. It's not really there's no other option. That's what Black kids need, especially in America. But to go off my experience, though, there's a lot of things that I have a problem with my high school. But I went to a predominantly white high school. It was a performing arts school, performing arts, music and art, visual arts school, all of that. But the thing there was, students were allowed to be freer, or to able to explore whatever they wanted to, than they would have had in another school. You know what I'm saying? Than another school where I lived, or, you know, where I was used to going to school. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was a freedom. There was a much more of a lighter air that they were able to do. People, you know, no matter what you identify as, like, gender, you know, like in my drama class, you would be able to pursue what you wanted to do. You could be able to pursue whatever character, you know what I'm saying? And that, I just, I wish other kids was able to have that experience. It came with a lot of stuff, you know, racially and la 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 in that school. But I wish other students were able to have that type of freedom that I know they didn't have. You know what I'm saying? And like, you know, like I grew up in Brooklyn. I moved to Queens when I was 9. I grew up in East Flatbush, and then I moved to Queens. So and wherever I was at, it was prevalent. Like it's the schoolyard, it's the classroom, it's the bathroom, it's the auditorium, it's the gymnasium, it's whatever. You know what I'm saying? And I guess just what the goal of I think what every Black person in America should be, you know, especially if they want to have kids, is how to nurture that freedom, you know, which takes it off to the Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union. Like it's crazy that people are debating how could you debate a person to love their child, whatever they want to do.
Exactly.
Like that's crazy to me that people debate. You know what I'm saying?
That's not even up for discussion.
It's not up for the discussion. There's no other options. That's just what it is. That's just what you know. Let her be who she wants to be. You understand?
Yeah.
I was so mad when Lil Boosie made that little statement. You know.
Oh yeah.
Dwayne cut it off. That was so. Oh God, I want to punch him in his face. It's like for real, dude. For real.
Yeah. Yep. So, Saeed, you wanna respond to that real quick?
Based on what Joe said, like I said earlier, you don't wake up or grow up thinking what you're going to be. It's a feeling, you know. It happens. Puberty happens. You outside. You know who you're attracted to. You know, like you said, sports. You know, jump rope. It's just different vibes that just in you, and that's usually where you go. You know, it's just something that happens, right? It ain't something you think about or sit down with your boy and talk about in a staircase. You know, if y'all talking, y'all might be talking about girls. You know, in that situation, you know, he wasn't able to express himself maybe because his friends might have liked girls at the time. So I could see where that could be hard. You know, he's growing up in an environment where, you know, you start expressing yourself with your peoples, and it's a little harder in his situation. I'm assuming because they assume for him to like what they like. You know, so it's a feeling. It's just a feeling.
Yeah.
Well,
Travis, here's the thing. Let me just enlighten you just a little bit.
Okay.
It's always a feeling.
Okay.
Always a feeling, you know, because there are brothers out there that are just as feminine as me.
Okay.
But they love women. They love they you know, but they just don't have that toxic masculinity. They love women. They marry, go on to marry women and have successful marriages. You know, they go on to be grandfathers. You know, and you know, being laying with the man is the last thing. That's on the, you know. So I want to put that out.
No, that's well said, because I again, that's not something that I would think of, or
exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Because that was not my environment or my upbringing. But you know, again, I'm being educated, like I think most people here that are chiming in and just, you know, the comments. But I do want to go back to this important. I think this question from Vina really strikes a chord. And I want to ask you brothers, you know, how do we help the kids that don't have the family support so that they don't think suicide is the answer because they don't understand what's happening to them?
You need a community. You need a community like that right there. People to talk to, people that's been through it. Have conversations with people that's like-minded or open-minded.
Yeah, open-minded. I agree.
And
Joe,
loving,
Camille,
and loving, and
and
loving,
loving.
because
yeah,
and this is why the healing is important and get rid of, because um you have to let a child know that no matter what, you love them regardless. You love them. They're safe with you. You may not understand or have all the answers. You may be nervous as a mom, as a dad. You may have that anxiety that how they're going to be treated. But you, at this day and age in 2021, we should not be having this conversation.
Right.
Now this
Exactly.
is, we understand, you know, that we have come a long way, but right now in 2021, we should not be questioning kids. If a
Yeah.
child comes to you and tells you that they are different or they feel different inside, and it doesn't match it the outside, maybe you as a parent may be confused and not understand, but that's when the conversation happened. Google is free. There's so much support out there in the LGBT community. All I see is love. So when it comes to children, back to Zaya Wade, we shouldn't be saying that we are, as adults, guiding this
Right.
child, or because we want to demasculate the Black community, or we want to take men out of the Black community. I have known Joseph a very, very long time, and he is a man to me still. I
Mm.
do not see him any other way.
Right.
So if he loves his husband, I love his husband because I
Right.
love him, right?
Mm.
Right.
So
Right.
that's not hard. So at 12 years old, growing up, I knew that I liked boys. I knew that I had a little tingle tingle going on. So why not at 12 years old, Zaya Wade not know that something is different
Right.
about
Right.
her?
Right.
Something is different, and she came to her parents, and her parents is supporting her, as we should. This should not be ostracized. We coming off the heels of COVID. How many people have we lost? We got people fighting for their lives, and you want to talk about, I mean, you know, I'm sorry to go off on a tangent. I'm
That's
just
all
a
right.
little
Well,
emotional, but
so I'm going to go
you
ahead and
know, we
let
don't
Joe.
have the energy for that. It's
Mm.
2021, okay, and we still fighting for rights for Black people, and we
Yeah.
want to take, because you are LGBTQ, you're not a part of the Black community, or we're going to ostracize you within the Black community while we're being ostracized by the world. That just
Right.
Mm.
doesn't make sense to me.
Yes.
Right.
Agreed. Agreed.
Community. We have community guys like us. You know, back in our day, when we didn't have those people that we could talk to, like our parents, excuse me, like some of our parents that shunned us, or some of our family members or friends that didn't want to deal with us anymore. We had community. Community, like, you know, I'll give you an example. Joseph and I, we have a whole plethora of gay sons.
Mm.
Matter of fact, one of my sons is about to get married. But I've nurtured him ever since his younger years. I've nurtured him since he was about 14 years old, you know. And so he was a child that his back was turned on by his family, you know. And so he asked me, he said, "Can you be my dad?" I said, "Sure, I can do that." And I was the one that guided him through you know, the highways and byways of life, or, you know, the tumultuous times in his life, or even dealing with some of the tumultuous things that happened to him as a child. I was the
Mm-hmm.
one that, you know, trying to guide him through those things. And, you know, anybody out there, you can always contact McRae Kingz if you need, because that's what we do. We mentor. We mentor. We're motivational speakers, you know, and, you know, that's just what we do. You know, that's our livelihood. So, but anyway, you know, find someone in your community that you can speak to, that you can talk to. If you're a parent and you don't understand and you want to understand, don't be afraid to ask somebody that you know that's LGBTQ. I know that some of the questions that you may have may seem crazy or silly or what have you, but the person that you're speaking to or asking those questions to, they may understand your ignorance, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Find someone like that. A minister, you know, somebody. Yeah, these ministers, some of these ministers, child.
Hey, that's a whole nother show and a whole nother
That's
topic.
right.
We're gonna take that box and we're gonna put it over to the side. Yeah, but you have to find someone in your community that can cater to you. You know,
because it's a beautiful thing. Like me and Tramel, was doing our show one day, and somebody just came in the chat, and they was like, "Oh my God, guys, thank you." And we like, "What did we do?" Because it wasn't somebody we had ever spoke to one-on-one. And they said, "Today I got the courage to finally tell my mother that I was gay." I said, now I got kind of scared, like, "Oh my God, is this a kid?" Because I don't want you to get thrown out or something. And they was like, "It took me 69 years." I said, "What?"
Wow.
Like, in my mind, that's like,
Wow.
how could you live your life a lie that long?
But it's people
But
that
people do it. People do it, and it's just amazing to me that they do that because, you know, like I told y'all the first time, there ain't nothing wrong with me. Something wrong with you for thinking something wrong with me. But there's plenty of, now because of that suicide rate, there are a lot of organizations for teenagers and for kids and for them, if they are homeless, to go to shelters that just cater to young gay adults. They are now opening shelters just for young transsexuals,
which is
because
great.
they go to shelters and then they start getting raped. And like, if they were, you know, because people then turn on them because they'll put a transgendered woman in the men's shelter, and these men are seeing this woman walk through, so they rape her.
Well, and let me say this.
And
It's
women
a
are just as
shame.
bad because they trans men in jail with women, and then the women rape them. So
Wow.
you have a man sitting there, come on now, locked up, and I come walking in jail. Come on now. You ain't seen the man in how many years, but here I come. And you like, "Ooh, he looks good."
But it's a shame that it has to be this way. But guys, we deal with reality. I deal with reality. I don't know about nobody else, but I deal with reality. It's a shame that it has to be this separatism. But, you know, in some cases, it just does.
Right.
And we have to understand that. Also, us people on the other side, we have to understand, you know, it's baby steps with a lot of people. It should be. I'm not saying that it should, Joseph. You know that.
Well, I mean,
we argue about stuff like that.
I have to be honest with you. You know, the baby steps is real. Like, you know, and I just have to be in my truth. You know, this is baby steps for me. Through the whole education and through the whole transformation of this conversation, you know, from the previous one to now, I've had a lot of conversations at home, and it's really made me have to address, you know, who I am, my upbringing, my actions, and how maybe I've moved or reacted, or things I may have said in the past.
Tell you about that with his mom. You know, he would say, Joseph would tell me about how his mom would say, you know, she would drop the F-bomb, or she would say something
would talk
against
about somebody
gay people not realizing.
Like, when she asked me what took me so long, she knew, but she was like, "Well, what took you so long to tell me?" I said, "Because the things I heard you say about gay people. Like, you can't possibly love me, and I'll tell you I'm gay when you say this about them."
Right. Wow.
She apologized because I said, "But it wasn't your fault. You didn't know. You didn't know that these things that you were saying. It's just no different than if you have a dark-skinned child and you sitting there playing up like, 'Oh my God, that light-skinned girl is so beautiful. Oh, he's light-skinned,' but your dark-skinned child is sitting there like, 'Well, you can't possibly love me.'"
Honey, that's a whole nother show, that colorism.
that can still be going on today.
Your parents talk about gay people. It's no different than that. And people get mad. I don't like when Caucasians do it. I'm gonna put it that way. But as a black man, I feel I could do it. What black people do to me ain't no different than what white people are doing to us. But they don't hear that because they say, "Oh, I didn't choose to be black, or I didn't choose to be gay." Yet you don't have a problem with who I'm sleeping with, which you're not in my bedroom. It's none of your business. I don't understand why it matters to you. I don't care what you're doing because you ain't doing it with me. Even me and Tramel, we just experienced this because we moved from the old house we lived in to this one. And on our other block, our neighbors was just like, you know, they wasn't mean enough. They just didn't want to know us. Here, these neighbors are beautiful. They're beautiful. And you know, Tramel, he's the happy.
Oh yeah, I'm the happy when I come. Hi, you know, I have my little bag, and I'm like, "Oh hey,
this is my husband."
I'm that. Yeah, I'm that neighbor. You know, I'm the one that comes over with Jello and stuff like that. But
Perception of us.
yeah,
Like, that's the part. He'll go, oh, that's my husband. They go, oh, hey, Joseph, how you doing?
mm-hmm.
Even if they have a problem with it, we don't know they have a problem.
Right, right.
They done invited us to bonfires. They done invited us to movie nights and everything. We already know. This was a black block. We would be having a conversation. It would be a whole different. Now, I can't say that for everybody. Don't get me wrong, it's not everybody, but the majority of people, especially straight married people, will have a big problem.
Yeah.
But there is a different reception, and I can't lie. When people find out that we are legally married, their whole attitude changes for some reason.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is it a age demographic when you say people? Or is it a younger crowd that acts that way, an older crowd?
You know what?
Black people, white people?
Younger
I
people.
don't see why. Like that's
You know what I think is, you know what, I'm so glad, Saeed, that you touched on that, because you know what I was about to say is what's sad is we get it more from our own people. That's just like me. I talk to you about colorism all day, and you know,
no matter the age bracket, the young crowd and everybody acts the same for the most part.
Yeah, what I was gonna say, what's sad is that we get it more from our own people. We get that that cold shoulder from our own people than we do anybody in the whole entire world.
It's more the people born in our age range.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
The younger guys, people, period. They went, oh my God, that's so straight gay. The gay ones want to be like us. They were, oh my God, when I get your age, I want to have love and I want to be married and I want
we get that. Most of the
millennials love it. They love the fact that they're married and embrace us and all of that. But it's always the older people born in the 70s and 60s. Back.
Yeah, back like that part they really just like they not having it. You know, and it's like if you want to talk about color or demographics, you want to talk, it's mostly I have to say white people are more receptive to us.
Wow.
Well, let me say this, that since the topic is
before we go into black women, we have always had I feel like, you know, like I said, I'm a child of the 70s, but I've always felt like we got more support from black women than anything. You know, black women have always supported black gay men. You know, there are those instances like where I'm like I have to scratch my head and say, "Ooh, this sister, she don't like me."
So you know what? Then that brings it, because we've got two great questions. And I'm going to start. Well, I'm going to change up the order. I'm going to throw this one out here because this is a great question. I think the thoughts on cis men or women getting casted in LGBTQ plus roles. And I want to start, you know, I want to thank my daughter for answering, you know, being in film and things like that. I'm going to pass that to Travis first, you know, because it might be a little more competition when it comes to roles in that manner. So, Travis, what are your thoughts on that question?
You know, the interesting part is, I would say in the past year or two, all roles for black men have been to play men who identify as people in the LGBTQ community, which is crazy in the past 2 years. So just look at and I'm just looking at auditions. So to look at and I was thinking about this like a few months ago, just to look at the trend of, you know, the culture of how that's going. You know what I'm saying? Part of me feels like it's not even in my jurisdiction to answer that question because I identify as a black, as a straight black man. You feel me?
Right.
I do not identify as a person from the LGBTQ community. With that, however, I do know that there's people who can identify as straight or whatever, but they cross the spectrum in terms of you know, people that they like. You know what I'm saying? And like that is always like a conversation. How do they feel in terms of acting? I know, like even in acting schools, like I've played people who are of like of the LGBTQ community. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And I almost feel like that's not in my jurisdiction to answer because I'm not of the community to say like you know, like what is it? You know what I'm saying? I do
No,
know
I
that
understand.
in auditions, like, you know, I'm auditioned for it, and I think it's really a conversation to just to have. And the thing, I know Lisa talked about the demasculation of Black men that keeps on happening because of, and that's always been a conversation. Like the first thing people ask me is, man, would you play a person in a skirt? That's the first thing
Wow.
people always ask me. That's the
Really?
first, that's one of the first questions. It's like, especially as Black men, that's when the first, oh, you're gonna do that, and I think, you know, people think it's a threat, like a non-existent threat that does not exist at all. You know what I'm saying? Is, you know, we need to tend to our stuff. Like and I say that to me all the time. I'm a person that's very, like, I don't like to talk about certain things. I try to hold in emotions. You know, whether you want to say that falls on the masculinity side or the femininity side, whatever. But I know that's what I do. You know what I'm saying? And I struggle with that every day. So yeah,
it's got to be hard. I mean, that's one reason why I asked it. You know, you may see it, and I don't want to pigeonhole what you do, but you may see that more in your workplace than maybe most of us may see in every day, or you may encounter that more every day,
especially behind the scenes. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like people always try to put up, you know, Martin playing Big Mama or Tyler Perry playing Medea as the demasculation of all this, like of all this stuff that really just doesn't exist. Like people play characters. That's what I think. But I mean, I really want Joseph and Tramel to answer that question on, like, what are your thoughts on that? Really,
definitely. Joe, Tramel.
For me, if Travis played just a gay man, I would be okay with it. Now, if they just gave him the role over a gay man just because they didn't want a real gay man, then I have a problem with that. But if he was playing a gay man, I wouldn't have a problem with that. My thing is, if he outacted whoever, you know, tried out for the part, hey, you did your thing. They like it better. My problem comes in when they want him to play a trans woman. Now there are so many trans women that are acting. Why use a real woman or even a man to play a trans woman? Get a real trans woman to do that, because there are so many. There's Tracy. There's all the girls on Pose now. You have all of them that could actually. They are
right.
Why not use them? Why use like the whole issue with Charlize Theron? Why would you use her to play a trans woman just because she's Charlize Theron? And you want people to come to your movie and you want people to see your movie. It's not fair. It's not fair to trans women that are acting that can play that role better than she ever could, because they've lived the life.
So I don't.
Okay. So why don't you care?
With me, you gonna get. I don't care. I really don't care. Whoever the best person for the job is who I feel as though should get the job. If that be Travis, if that be Joseph, if that be Lisa, whoever the best person for the job is, I don't look at because I don't identify. And that's one of the things I needed to make clear before we start.
Yeah, because that's why you audition for the role, because whoever's better should get the job.
Right. And you know, me, I don't identify with gender. To be honest with you guys, I really don't. I'm not non-binary and all this. I'm gay and I'm not. That's not me. I'm just who I am, and that's it. Whatever that is, y'all get the idea.
Gotcha.
You know? But my opinion would be whoever is best for the job. So
you audition.
Went to audition for a role as a trans woman, and he played that part good, then by all means, I think that he should get that job.
But you have somebody like,
and I understand that
you
there
have
are
somebody like Raeburn Cobbs that they don't have to put her in boy makeup. She has a twin brother, so my brother, who is also an actor, they did it. They did it on Orange Is the New Black, and everybody's like, Raeburn did that, and all the gay people were shocked, because that's what you don't do to a trans woman is the transition hub.
But how about she just don't play that particular role good? That particular role.
If you have a part for a black man, you're not going to send a black man to audition for it unless they're going to change the whole role to be a white man, because that's just not what you do in Hollywood.
Because we don't play that blackface.
No, what I'm saying is
right.
Like what I've heard, that she's auditioned for stuff that was for a white woman, and then they had to redo the script because sister act. It wasn't supposed to be her. They had to redo the script for a black woman. My thing is, if you shouldn't even allow women to try out for a trans woman part. Now, you just can't find any trans women actresses that can do that. Then you got to do your next.
The reason why they do that, Joseph, and you can't not do that, is because you open doors. People open doors. People like Whoopi Goldberg, they open doors.
Right.
Certain things.
Right.
And that's why I say, it's a very difficult decision. And that's why, Travis, I really, kudos. I take my hat off to you. If this has been your experience as a heterosexual, straight black man, that, the only roles that you're running into, most of the roles that you run into are LGBTQ, and where does your spirit, your spirit has to be just open, because I would get tired. I'll be tired. Oh, here we go again, another gay wall.
Okay, listen, guys. Listen, you two, don't stop.
So
look.
Because it's too much of that in Hollywood. That's not how we all act.
No, there's a certain way to play the flamboyant.
So we gonna obviously we can tell that you guys have this conversation a lot. So I'm just going to go ahead and move to the next question. I don't want to cause no troubles at home, and I want to move to the next question, which is kind of off topic. And again, I think it's a great question. With the representation being pushed to the forefront in media and TV today, do you think that the LGBTQ plus community's representation has gotten better as far as accuracy is concerned, or do you think that the representation has gotten worse?
It's worse. It's gotten worse. It's terrible. It's terrible, y'all. It's terrible. There's so many misconceptions out there. It's more and more misconceptions out there now than there were when we were in the shoebox behind the mothball.
Really?
Yeah, because there's more opinions. Everybody involved now, so it's all messed up. I agree with that.
People have this thinking that a gay man is this is what a gay man looks like. This is what a gay man acts like. This is what a gay man walks like. This is what No, you got it wrong.
So many opinions.
You got it wrong. This is what a gay man wants. Now when we talk about what a gay man wants, just this week, Joseph and I have been having this conversation. He's talking about some comedian, talking about how there should be there shouldn't be a men's section or a woman's section in the store where they buy clothes and things like that. And I'm like, John, why not? Why? Listen, I've always been the one to push the envelope. I'm pretty sure you guys can pretty much get that from me. But I've always been this person that's always pushed the envelope, not with everybody else, but with myself. Let me tell you something. If I want to go in Lane Bryant and buy me an outfit, I'm gonna buy me an outfit from Lane Bryant. That's it. If I see something that I want, I'm going to get it. You know what I'm saying? But that's just, listen, it's just so much confusion in our community when it comes to dealing with the heterosexual world, because they are so disappointed when they find out that it ain't what it is. It ain't what you thought it was. If you still think, he ain't gay because he got kids.
I want to ask you that though, because you bring up a good point about the heterosexual world and just everything with how toxic masculinity is defined. And I'm sorry, but it just it just draws me to this. A lot of us really assume that it's really something that is just towards straight men alone, right? This is something that is just comes from straight men. Is there a hierarchy, or some type of levels to this of toxic masculinity within the gay community itself?
Of toxic masculinity?
Mm-hmm.
Is
Yeah,
that hierarchy?
yeah,
Yeah.
there is.
I never thought of it that way.
Tops are regarded as the ones.
Oh, yeah,
Because
yeah,
if
yeah.
you're a bottom,
Yeah.
being a bottom, I ain't gotta explain those terms because I'm sure common sense should tell you what's what.
Mm-hmm.
Being a bottom is considered like being a woman. They treat you
Mm.
like a woman, just
Right.
like men treat women. They
Right.
treat you the same way because to them you're less than a man because you're a bottom.
Right.
Tops get first priority. But see, from 20 to 21, those are running very few. It ain't
Mm.
like back in my day. Tops are
Okay.
very few far and in between. So when you find one that says they're a total top, most of them are banking in like a king because they get paychecks and all the goodies because everybody wants to keep him around because everybody wants to be on the bottom.
Right.
So bottom, then versatiles, I mean tops, versatiles, and then bottoms. And then trans are at the bottom of the list because for whatever reason, gay men always treat trans women horrible. And I think that is like
I understand that.
so I think that just boils my spirit because again, it's no different than what straight black people do to gay black people. Then we turn around and do it to black trans women and as gay men. And it's like it's horrible. It is the way they treat them. They'll sit there and boys talk to them because they're mad because the boy ain't talking to them. They'll look over and go, you know, that's a boy, right? And that put that person's life in jeopardy.
Yeah. And then there's this automatic assumption that people like me, who are bright and like the rainbow, and we like Skittles and things, and we carry bags and carrying on and things like that. There's this automatic assumption that we are queens. Well, I'm here to tell you, I'm far from a queen. Far from it. Far from a queen. You know, but you know, there there is a hierarchy. Yeah, there is
slave terminology.
I mean that's I mean that I just learned I can tell by Saeed's face and Travis. I think we just learned something new. Never had explained. So before I get to the next question, are there any other questions that anyone may have or want to ask? I'm going to give it a second, open up the floor to ask any question that you like to our guest tonight, the McRae Kingz or Travis Raeburn or Saeed Riddick. If I don't see any questions or if you don't feel comfortable asking, feel free to go ahead and send me the question. I'll be happy to go ahead and ask it on your behalf. And if I don't see any questions, exactly, Andrea, never knew.
Because we have a certain swag.
Yeah, y'all.
That's a certain swag.
I don't know. I was asking my husband. You can always tell y'all Brooklynites. Y'all just had this strong presence. Like I was looking at Saeed when he first came on. I was like, yeah, he's from Brooklyn, child.
Yeah.
Straight up
All
Brooklyn.
day.
You know, y'all can always tell you Brooklynites. You Brooklynites can just have this strong presence whenever you come into the room. That's just it. My husband's from Brooklyn.
Yeah. I think he said it was from Marcy, right? I think last time.
And when he gets to going with I'm from Marcy Projects, no, I sits back and you just let him do Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying? Let him do Brooklyn.
So I don't know. I'm gonna see. Alicia's got a question. So what is all that? The heterosexual? Was that I hero?
I think it should have said.
Maybe I hear. I don't know. I don't know, Alicia. Yeah, maybe you might want to hit us back with that question.
My name's Alicia.
I'm sorry about it. Oh, okay.
No, we ain't have no churn, child. I ain't have no kids. No.
Okay.
They say they got kids.
We got one. We actually have one. We have one. Here you go.
He got 4 legs.
Yeah, there you go.
So
I do have a question in regards to toxic masculinity. How do we bridge this gap, right? What do we do when we are encountering this in our everyday lives? Because this is something that has to be combated in the community to make us united. We have to start breaking down these barriers So what is something that we can do to start bridging these gaps and these barriers so we can move forward
Well,
as a community, and we
well,
all
we
could come together as Black people. That's just my bottom line.
well, we open up our minds.
Right.
You have to open up your mind. You have to open up your heart. And Lisa, it's like you said, you gotta love. You gotta love life more than you love yourself sometimes.
But I think also it's alert behavior.
It is.
So I think and it's one thing to be a crybaby, but it's another thing to cry because you feel pain or cry because you're hurt. And I think we need to stop telling our Black little boys that they can't cry, or little boys, period, because it's not just Black people that do that. It's boys, period, that they can't cry.
Facts.
Because
Facts
they,
on that.
and I'm going to go back to what I was saying before. Because when Lisa decides to find a man, and she gets this man and she wants him to understand her. I'm saying this for real. When she gets a man and wants him to understand her and comfort her, he can't do that because he's been always taught to close his feelings. So that's why women have problems finding men that can relate to their feelings. And women always say, 9 times out of 10, that's why women gravitate to gay men, because they say, you understand me. You understand how I feel when I'm crying. You understand what I'm going through, because their husbands or their boyfriends can't understand it, because their husbands and boyfriends been told not to feel, push it to the back, you don't feel nothing, just get through it, it'll go past, it'll go on. And they can't identify with that. I don't blame straight men. And that's what I tell my female friends, it's not their fault. This is how they've been trained. They've been trained to push all that to the back. Women have always been trained to feel and have emotions. Men have always been told not to feel and don't have no emotions behind nothing. Why you think it's easy for a man to pick you up one night and do what he needs to do and send you on your way? You emotionally attached and he done moved on to the next person. We are trained to push our emotions to the back and keep it moving.
And females
So is that part of the thing about man up? Like when people are crying or little boys are crying and they're told, be quiet, man up. Is that part of the
some people, boys and girls, are just cry babies. So I don't think it's wrong if your son is a cry baby to say stop crying all the time. I don't think my mother used to call me a cry baby because child when I was little I cried for every damn thing. But at the same time, when my mother died and I'm closing her up in a coffin, the last thing in my mind is me. I swear to you, I'm standing at the coffin closing it and wanting to break down and jump in the coffin, and I hear her in the back of my head going, you a crybaby. You cry over everything. You better not cry. You a crybaby. Joe, all you do is cry. You better not cry. Omar can tell you. Omar looked at me that day because he knew how close I was to my mother. And he said to me, I have a newfound respect for you because you didn't shed one tear. Because the whole day I kept hearing her in my head to call me a crybaby. So that, you carry that. Now, I'll tell you, I cry. Hell, I said this morning on my show, people send comments about how we help them or how much they love us, and I'll be sitting there snotting and crying. But that day, I refused to cry because I could hear my mother calling me a crybaby in my head. And I guess at that moment, because it was a sad occasion, to me, I was making her proud by not crying.
So in that retrospect, so are you saying that on that day is reminiscent to a man's entire life? They're thinking in their head, I'm a man, I have to man up, I'm not crying, I can't show emotion and this and that. So then we get to the point where you're saying the F-bomb or stop crying because you're acting like a girl, or these kind of things is what brings this about.
For me, that day, I was really being her man child because I was manning up for my mother that day because I know she hated when I cried. And for me, in my mind, I was manning up. I was not going to cry. I was going to keep it together because it was a part of me that said, if I break down, my sister's going to break down. So if I keep it together, I'm going to be strong for both of us. And I have to do this because I'm the boy. And it was bad. It was bad. 9 years later, I really had an emotional breakdown from my mother dying because I never really let myself
realize
feel.
you were grieving.
I didn't realize I was still grieving because I
Yeah.
never let it go.
Yeah.
I never, ever let it go. I just held it in. And I'm not a person to do that.
Right.
So because I'm not a person.
All right. Well, you know what?
So
Let,
I'm
let me
sorry.
jump in here because we had a couple other questions in here that I just wanted to jump on. That Alicia came back, and she wanted to know, she was clearing it up. What is something that we all can take away from this live interview and this live conversation? And I'll start, with Saeed. What do you think is something that we can all take away from this live interview?
Her name is Alicia, by the way. It's
Oh, Alicia. I'm sorry, Alicia. I apologize. I should get that right.
Something that I'm big on in life, period. I think we all could take respect. You have to respect people, what they like and what they don't like. Everything you like ain't it, and everything they like ain't it. So if everybody walk away with respecting one another, views and emotions and understandings, I think the world could be a better place. I think everything is based on respecting. You got to respect people and things, and I'm big on that. So that's what I think.
Okay.
You know,
Travis?
I think for that question, it further ingrains my idea of like listening. I think as a community, we need to listen more, and it needs to be the norm of any person in the LGBTQ community that's Black and that community should be able to just open up and just talk, or any parent or anybody, any friend, any cousin, any brother, any sister should be able to just listen. You know what I'm saying? Any person on the street, that should be a norm, especially in the Black community. That has to be a norm. So like that's what I have to take away is just listening. You know what I'm saying? You can't be too much into your ego, too much into fear to listen. I think, like this world is run by greed, and the more that we listen to one another, the more that our kids could live in a better place. And I think a lot of stuff needs to change at home on how we nurture our kids. Like I just have to bring it back to that. There is I think you said there's a hierarchy in toxic masculinity, but I believe it's a circle. You know what I'm saying? Like, it has to be a circle. It's taught from, a lot of it is from mom. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of us are raised in single parent households, and that's just a fact. A lot of Black men, you know what I'm saying? And we're raised to be kind of in. It's like it's a double-edged sword. We're raised to be in two by emotions, but still we got to man up. You know what I'm saying? That's constantly that thin line that especially a lot of Black men live on. Like we live on that line. Like I know some of the most gangsters people that I think identify as heterosexual Black men that will cry. You know what I'm saying? That like they'll do it to you and still cry at the same time.
Right.
And and that is always so interesting to me. So I know like it's such a complex thing to talk about hyper toxic masculinity and like with our Blackness, because it's just so incorporated, and sometimes I don't even know if that identifies if that falls on masculinity or more femininity, how we are able to just close down our emotions, you know what I'm saying? Because I know women that do the same thing, you know what I'm saying? But above all, we need to listen to one another. I think people really need to shut up and listen. You know what I'm saying? Especially older people. Like it's like I don't need to be like, but especially older people.
When you listen, you get an understanding. Correct?
It's
Usually
true.
when you listen, you get an understanding.
Or at least you're just able to understand where. Or at least you're just able to see where a person is coming through, because you don't have that experience. Right. I'm a Black heterosexual man. I do not have an experience of a Black person in the LGBTQ community. I do not have that experience. I gotta shut up. I think a lot of people need to do that. You feel me?
Right.
Exactly.
I agree. So we had one other question, and I'm going to, for those who might not know, how can we be better allies for or to the LGBT community? And I thank you for that question. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pass that to the McRae Kingz.
Well, just to piggyback off of what Travis said, number one is listen. bright as I want to be. I can be as comical and all that stuff that comes along with it. But at the end of the day, I'm OG. You know, I'm OG in the streets. Just put like Birdman, put some respect on.
Okay.
I'm all about the respect. I don't care what I don't like about you. I don't care if I like you as a person or not. I'm all about the respect at the end of the day. We can have our differences, but we have to respect each other. No, you're gonna respect me. You're gonna respect me, and that's just that. Even though you may or may not disagree with me.
But now to answer the actual question that you asked.
I know I'm gonna get a dictatorial dissertation, right?
No, I just think that me and Lisa was having a conversation last night, and she told me something that she did back in the day with one of her gay friends. And I think if most straight people did that it would stop the ridicule. And that was, she was with one of her friends when she was younger, and the guys across the street was making fun of him, calling him the F word, and she went over there and she cursed them out and brought them all together. Like, leave my friend alone. Leave him alone. He ain't doing nothing to you. And I think if people do that, if they stand up when they hear people doing stuff or saying stuff to us, it'll stop, it'll bridge a gap. Right. Because now, like, people have been very abrasive with my sister, and she knew it. So she would, like, say things that she knew they would catch on to and stuff, and then they would realize, well, it's different about her. And then they will open up to her and stuff like that. So sometimes, because we don't know how we're going to be accepted, we'll be abrasive to people and we'll be standoffish because we just don't know. And I think if we bridge that gap, you guys can help us. For example, if Saeed, I'm walking down the street and here comes Saeed and he hear people talking about me, you know, why you talking about him? What he doing here? He ain't doing there. Why you got something to say?
Right.
But see, a lot of straight men don't do that, even though they know it's wrong, because then it's gonna be, well, what, you fucking him? Because that's
no, but he right though. He right.
I could believe that.
Yeah, he right.
It's real, because that's what's gonna be the next thing. Why you protecting him?
Right.
Must be fucking.
But it should.
I think more you
because he's a human being.
It's easier for women to do it and protect us because they're not going to say that to me because they already know, well, he's gay. No, she ain't. But if Travis or Saeed do it, that's going to be the next question out their mouth because they're not supposed to try to stand up and say nothing to protect us because then it makes them suspect because you shouldn't have a problem with us messing with him.
He hit it on the head, and I think this kind of goes full circle. Travis hit it on the head, you know, being raised by a single parent. You can't cry, boy, if it ain't broke, you ain't hurt. If you ain't bleeding, ain't nothing wrong with you. That mentality. And then, like you just said, though, being in an environment, you know, me, you know, playing sports and being in different type activities like that, you know, we are very cliquish, you know, and I can think back to that time. If I was to say something like that, that would be exactly the comments that would have been said towards me if I was to do that then. But this is, again, the great thing about this conversation is really breaking down those stereotypes and really now bringing in a younger generation, the community as a whole. If we're talking about on this platform, you know, being united and moving forward, we have to be very inclusive and aware of, you know, our brothers and sisters in the LGBTQ community, and we need to build a bridge and move so that we can all move together forward. And I really appreciate you all taking the time to really just open up and share yourselves with us tonight. You know, we've been really pressing on, and you know, I don't want to take up too much more of anyone's time. I still want to allow for questions. If anybody has questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. But at the same point in time, I want to go back and jump in because I did see something from Vina, which you know, I think is very important. You know, Vina had typed in real quick that she communicated with several transgender men and had to tell them to live their truth and not to be ashamed of themselves. But sometimes she feels like she's just saying what needs to be said, but don't really know if she's saying the right thing. And I just have to be honest. I want to open it to Joe and Tramel. Like, do you feel or do you experience that at times, just with dealing with people on a daily basis or throughout your day, and what you guys are doing?
Well, we always tell people to live in their truth.
Yeah.
Because it took Tramel a long time to be comfortable with who he
Oh
was.
yeah. It took me till I was 50 years old to become all this. And
Wow.
it's a lot. It's a
Wow.
lot. Still unpacking and debunking things, But for the most part, it's safe for me to say that I can walk down the street and be proud of who I am.
Mm.
And not have that stigmatism on me, not to have that shame on me.
Wow.
There have been people like that sister in the comments that have said to me, it's okay, Tramel, for you to be yourself. That's all God wants. That's all we ever wanted, was for you to be yourself.
Mm.
And me, looking at society instead of looking at, the reality of what the situation was, I always felt as though I had to be what others wanted me to be.
Mm.
Listen, it's gonna come a time in your life. I don't care if you're gay, you straight. It's gonna come a time in your life where you just gonna have this little kid that's been living with you all this time stand up and say no more.
Mm.
I'm not doing that no more. And see, for me, that's what it was. It was like my inner child was like, I'm not doing that, Tramel. I'm not doing that no more. No, I'm not doing that. And I was, and hence I was able to propose to my husband. I was able to propose marriage to the person that I love.
Wow.
Looking at him as if he was a man, but just the person that I love, So I think everybody has that moment where they come to this moment where, you just feel it in your spirit, like, it's time for me to be whoever I am.
Mm.
That's an empowering thing.
Yeah, it is. It's very empowering.
You hide really from yourself. You allow people to disrespect you.
Mm-hmm.
You take the disrespect and you hold on to it.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody about this last night and it was the same thing. I told them, I said, "You really think nobody knows you're gay?"
Hmm.
And after I did that, it was like a freeing moment for them. I was always free. Once I admitted, said it out loud, you refuse to let anybody take you back to that place.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes, you're not going to talk about me, you're not going to disrespect me,
Right.
You're not going to call me the F word, because I've done that already.
Right.
I'm living in my truth. And if my truth bothers you, I don't understand why people just can't live and let live. What I'm doing is not affecting you in any way.
Yeah.
Stop. If you like me, love me, but don't try to change me to make me what you want me to be.
Yeah, and unapologetically just you.
Right.
You have to stop apologizing. You have to stop apologizing to other people for being. I don't apologize to nobody. You don't like this? It is what it is.
Advice to be themselves.
It is what it is.
But
It is what it is.
Of course, in one state, a lot of people they want to force people to come out, or they want to tell them, do it now. People have to do that when they're comfortable, because you just never know what the reaction is going to be. And if you force somebody to come out before they're ready to, like I know people say, "Oh, I don't know why they don't just tell me because I know." Well, just because you know don't mean that you know.
Yeah, that ain't your business.
You know nothing until it comes out of their business. Until they tell me and live in their truth. No, it's none of your business until they tell you. I tell don't pull people out of the closet.
Yeah.
It's funny you end on that because I'm sitting here looking at Trey's response, and first of all I got to ask Saeed and Travis, because I'm looking at the response and I'm listening to you guys. I've never sat here and really had to think about what it is that you do have to unpack emotionally and or mentally. As a straight, heterosexual black male, it's like we're in our own world. And Saeed or Travis, please chime in. Like, I've never really taken a moment until now. I'm seeing the words and I'm just letting it sit there, because I've never once until now really even had to, or even thought about what that's like. Have you gentlemen ever took time to even really think about that?
I haven't. No. No, I didn't have to.
Right.
Like you said,
Right.
you usually deal with what's on your plate, type thing.
Right.
So it's not on my plate. So I didn't think about the emotional part of it. But if I was having a conversation with someone, I always was the person I am now. It never bothered me.
Mm.
It,
Hmm.
like Joe said, it's like I always was doing my thing. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it never bothered me. But I never thought about the emotional part. No.
Okay.
Yes, that's what I like about Saeed. Saeed is just like
Let's see this. That
he's
Right.
just
Yeah. I'm going to come back to that question because I think that's a great question from
Yeah,
Divine. But
that's
I want to let Travis and Joseph and Tramel um, go
Yeah,
ahead and
I've
respond.
I've definitely thought about it due to environment. I think
oh wow.
as I move, as I just got older, you know what I'm saying. On top of that, I guess people who were a part of the community have always existed in my life, whether I knew it or not. You understand what I'm saying? So they've always existed. So even as a child, I think people they try to. I think like family members try to distance us or like just kids and say you can't think about that, you can't think about that. But even as I got older, just due to what I do as a craft, acting, like you just had to think about it, or
Mm.
even like a lot of the people that I know are personally a part of that community or have like tried to I just went to a school where people were a part of the spectrum, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So they went here and they went there and they didn't really get as much frat for it if they did if there was in another place. You know what I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm.
so
Hmm.
like a lot of people was just able to explore that. So yeah, like I've had to think down or even just with acting, not even with playing a person of the LGBTQ community, but say if I play a person that a black man, like because I'm a black man, I'm a heterosexual black man, and the character is a person that is a cross dresser, and I'm
Hmm.
gonna put that in quotes. Like there's a lot that goes with that, like to like just how you think, like how I think about the character, how I just dive or just how I have to dive in. You know what I'm saying? There's parts
Right.
of myself that I have to ask a lot of questions of, just of the upbringing, just of like of the schools. This is and it's literally a lot. It's a lot
Mhm.
emotionally if I'm able to let my emotions flow freely. It's a lot mentally. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And I pride myself on being a sort of disciplined person on how I approach things. So to compartmentalize, especially as a young person,
Mm.
like can be a lot, and it takes time, like it takes day by just to unpack, just to say this is what it is, this is where I come from, and this is where I have to go is a really
Right.
truthful, honest thing. And it's not just LGBTQ people that have to live in the truth. Is us that it's us heterosexual Black people that have to
Mm.
say, okay, this is where my faults are at, or this is where my biases, and this is
Right.
where I got to check that, you know what I'm saying, and
Right.
stay
Right.
gangster, really be like, nah, this is where the bias is, and we have to constantly do that. We have to do that with the people that we love, and
Hmm.
we got to do that to the people that we don't even know, you know what I'm saying, like it's real. So
Hmm. Jay, what's up? Appreciate it, my brother. I'm gonna uh let that question go to the McRae Kings really quick because we have some real great questions here. I want to get back to Divine's question, but I want to allow you gentlemen to answer that question about the unpacking emotionally and mentally.
Whoa, yeah. That was it was a lot. It can be a very emotional thing. It can be a very emotional mental roller coaster to debunk and to just like, you know, um, just release all the things that are going on inside, you know.
You have to prepare to lose friends.
Mhm.
You have to prepare to lose family.
Yeah.
You have to
Mm.
prepare yourself mentally for the reaction you're going to get.
Yeah, I mean, I had to leave my church, the church that I went to for 28 years. I had to leave the Church of God in Christ, the
Wow.
institution of the Church of God in Christ, simply because I decided that I wanted to be not only marry my husband, but be myself and live in my own skin. You
Mm.
know, so you have to prepare yourself. It took a lot of prep work. I prepared myself for a lot of things, you know, for a lot of things to be shedded
but I didn't look at those things in a negative way like my church. I don't look at my church and look back at my church experience as being one of a bad one, because I have a bad experience in the Church of God in Christ. It's just that at one point there came a point in time in my life where they did not agree with what I agreed with. I made a decision that I was going to move forward, and that was it. Do I hate them? Absolutely not. And that's what you have to do. You have to move forward with love. You have to move forward with love in your heart. And at the end of the day, it has to be selfish love. You loving yourself more than anything else.
Right. Well, I'm going to go ahead then. I appreciate that, but I really think this is another great question, and I thank the audience and our listeners for really providing these great questions. From Divine, is it confusing to, let's say when a child sees the behavior or ways and actions of a gay man as opposed to their father or brother, what do you explain as the truth? And I think that's a great question, because this kind of covers, our panel tonight. And I'd like to, if I could, I'll start out with Joseph and Tremel.
Well, I'm going to say this. First of all, what is actually? I've always wanted to know what that is. What does that mean? That.
I'm messing with him, but I know that I mean. Yeah. Because my thing is this, and this is the part that people get so confused. Kids only learn what you teach them. My cousin's daughter she got asked to be a flower girl in the wedding because her husband's brother came out. But I've been out way longer than her husband's brother. So she asked me, she said, Joe, what do I do? What do I say? I said, well, what did she ask you? She said, nothing. I said, well, why would you explain something when she didn't even ask you a question? I said, just make her a flower girl. What's the difference if it was a man and a woman? If she don't ask questions, there's nothing for you to explain.
Right.
So a lot of people want to get in the front of it before it happens, but at the end of the day, kids think anything they see is okay until you make it wrong. Sit there and go, well, you're not supposed to act like that. He's funny. He's one of those funny people. You don't want to act like that. Don't act like that, but you can act like those other two you see on the screen. But don't act like those two, because. And I'm not saying Divine would do that, but I'm just saying that's what people do because they want to get in front of it to stop it before it starts. And what people don't realize is, like when they say a gay agenda on TV and, you train kids, but all the straight people I saw didn't train me to be straight. Because in my day and age, there was very few gay people on TV. So if me seeing men with women all the time didn't program me to want to be with a woman.
Yeah, exactly, Trey. Excuse me, I'm sorry, Joseph, but I had to. Trey, you're absolutely right. Yes, kids don't see differences until adults point them out.
That's my point.
Listen, I'm known as, I'm international, y'all. When I tell y'all I'm international, I have met people from all different races, ages, colors, and all. I've met an array of people, and so as a result of that, I've seen men, like I said, it goes back to what I said before. I've seen men that are very flamboyant, like myself, that have absolutely no interest in men, that marry women, that love everything about a woman, that have children, that are grandfathers, that are uncles. Listen, that's where my ignorance lies sometimes. It's because of, my culture. And what I've experienced from different types of things. I walked through the Bronx. I walked through Brick City, New York. Shout out to Brick City. That's where I'm from. But I walked through Brick City. Ain't never had no problem with nobody. You know what I'm saying? Bag and all. Attitude and all. I ain't never had no problems. Everybody just respected me because I respected them. Right. I don't. That's why I don't get this. When people say, well, children see, other children or other people acting a certain type of way, or acting flamboyant or what have you, and thinking that the child is going to take something away from that. Most children, they take you know what they take away from it. They find it humorous.
They either like or they
You know,
don't like you.
and they either like you or they don't like you. And
Right.
We program kids
yeah,
Well,
on biases and hate. We program them. And
we
I
do. We do. It's
we just don't answer questions unless they're asked of you. Because like I said, a lot of people want to get up front of it before it happens. Let me explain this before they ask me.
right.
Why? Who
Right.
says that? Wait till they ask.
It's like my pastor says. My pastor says we teach people how to treat us. We also treat each other. We treat ourselves.
Yep.
We teach ourselves how to treat ourselves. You know, so you teach yourself how to treat yourself as well. So you have to just listen. We live in a day and age where it's just life is just so intricate.
it is.
And it's hard to it's sometimes hard to, you know, flow through what's going on in the world. What do you accept, what you don't accept, and da 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 da. You just have to be an open-minded person.
Well, I agree. And on that, you know, we have really dived into a lot this evening. And there's really so much more to unpack. And I again want to thank you all for joining us, taking time out of your evening. We will continue this series. You know, we're working in the background to continue with you know, the LGBTQ community. We want to add on and have others from the community come join us in sharing this conversation. But before I go, I want to allow Lisa. I see you shaking your head. Anything you like to say before we go? And
No, I think it was a great and informative, impactful as usual. We always learn something. And I was glad. I'm glad that we had this, and I thank our guests, of course,
yes,
my Kingz, my nephew Saeed, and Travis. I love all of you guys, and we just going to hope for a better world moving forward, and we can do this together.
yes, I agree. So before we go out, I'm going to ask our guests to share their final thoughts and any information or anything that they may have coming up in the near future with our listeners. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pass the baton. I'm going to start with Mr. Saeed Riddick.
Um,
Anything you'd like to share before you go, Si?
Nah, D, I just want to thank you for inviting me. You and Lisa for inviting me, man. You know, I usually don't do the camera thing. I got a lot to say. Like you said, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I know a lot, but you know, I just never got into the camera thing. Um, but I'm glad I did it. And I say live, love, respect life, man. Thanks for inviting me, y'all. Had a good
Well,
time.
we
And to
appreciate
all the
you.
gentlemen on there, thank you, man. Nice meeting you both, all three of you. Pleasure.
Appreciate you, Si. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to my young king, my young brother here, Travis Raeburn. I'm really impressed with this, yo. If you haven't seen any of his work or anybody live up in Jersey, man, when the pandemic opened up, you going back to the play, right? You going back to the theater, right, bro?
Oh
Okay.
yeah, nah, yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, we want to
Yeah,
check him out. But go ahead and share your anything you got going on, man, before we get out of here, Travis.
thank you guys. Thank you to the audience. Thank you to Joseph Trammell, to Saeed, just for speaking and just for talking. I think we need more of this. We need more of this. I saw a person say transparency, and I say transparency. We need, just to speak and just to listen. And that was a great way to end my evening. You know, thank you so much for that. And yeah. I'm an actor. My name is Travis Raeburn. I'm here, so thank you for just for having me on your show again.
Yeah, hey man, you always got a home here, bro. We have you back again, man. Definitely.
We're gonna come out and support you when things open back up. Just let
For
us know,
sure,
man.
for sure,
We'll,
for
we'll
sure.
pull up.
Yes.
All
And
right.
last but not least,
Uh-oh.
Joseph and Trammell. I want to what do you brothers got going on, man? I be popping in on y'all, man, seeing what's going on with the show and
So,
everything y'all be doing, man. So what y'all got going on? Share with our listeners, man.
so much. This month we are well. First, guys, we we are on every morning, weekday mornings at 11:30 a.m. Coffee with the Kings. Join us for that. And you can go back and watch the replays. We appreciate those as well. We also have coming up with us this month Oliver Twix. Oliver Twix is he's
gay rapper.
A gay rapper. And no, I want to rephrase that. He's a rapper that just so happens to be gay.
Okay.
T.S. Madison, of course, you know
his music is hot.
Yes, his music is hot. Of course, you guys know who T.S. Madison is, so he works with her and a plethora of other different artists as well. We also have Imani Van Zant coming up on the 23rd, I believe, the 28th of
and I'm doing a real estate series with Tyler Millette on the 22nd. We're going to teach everybody how to prepare to buy a house, all the things you need if you want to get into real estate and flipping houses and all of that. She's going to be with me, and we are going to talk about that. So we got a lot of stuff coming up in March.
Yeah.
Make sure you guys go over to the McRae Kingz page and subscribe. And hit that little alarm bell so that you know when we go live. Because trust me, you're may laugh, you may cry, but guaranteed a good time with the King.
Yes, and our brand is Dare to Be Different. So we tell you all to dare to be different. Do your greatest work every single day. That's what Dare to Be Different is all about. It's about living in your truth, and it's about all those great things with being just different. You know, doing something outside of what you would normally do. We do have a McRae Kingz boutique that you can go over to. We'll be more than happy to pass the information on to you guys.
Yes, Lisa, and you can drink coffee in the morning out of a mug with my face on it.
Yes.
I will drink the mug with I will drink the mug with Tramel's face, not you.
Okay. Always going there. They ain't nothing but love. It's love. It's all about
You know I love him.
It ain't nothing but love. Once this pandemic is over with, we do plan to have this great big meet and greet, and we would love for you guys to be a part of it as well.
All you gotta do is send the information, man. You send the information, we'll be there.
Yes, we are in the midst of planning that. And also, guys, just one last thing. Remember, 2020, that was the vision. This year, 2021, it is what it is.
Okay.
Let's get it.
It is what it is.
Let's get it.
So I'm going to drop the mic right there and say it is what it is.
Okay. It is what it is. Well, thank you so much, Joseph, Tramel, Travis, Saeed. Before we go, I just want to go ahead and just thank our patrons tonight, CME Enterprise and Prince William Perspective for patronizing Two Mics Up. I also want to give a big shout out to tonight's live sponsors, Next Level Keys and Riddick Entertainment. Huge support. Yes, exactly. Big round of applause. Thank you so much. As we always do, ladies and gentlemen, please feel free to check Two Mics Up online at www.twomicsup.com. You can follow us across our social media platforms, IG, Facebook, and Twitter at Two Mics Up. We've got some brand new things coming. If you haven't subscribed, go subscribe today. Brand new newsletter. We've got some other brands and businesses that's going to be coming on board. We're going to be giving out some great things and offers to our subscribers. And stay tuned for the Two Mics Up store. That's going to be coming soon too.
All right.
All right. Yeah, we trying to we following in your footsteps, man. Content creators. I'm going to add that. I'm going to steal your line, Joe. Content creators over here.
That's right.
And as always, ladies and gentlemen, stay safe, stay blessed. Mike's out.
It is what it is.
It is, yes.